Welkom aan al die EN en T311 studente. Teaching in English 2 gaan nou afskop vir die jaar 2023. Hier is vir julle 'n kort opsomming van module EN en T311, die datums, die weke, die leereenhede en wat ons in elke leereenheid gaan doen. In hierdie module gaan ons kyk na jou Engelse aanbieding van jou klasse, wat jy nodig het om jou vak in Engels te kan aanbied, die selfvertroue wat jy nodig het om dit in Engels te kan doen. Dan gaan ons ook kyk na motivering, tweede taalleerders wat gemotiveer moet word om in Engels te leer, en ook onderwysers en die motivering wat hulle nodig het om goeie onderwysers te wees. Die laaste deel van hierdie module is om die realiteit van skoolhoud te besef en te kan hanteer. Ons gaan baie vinnig deur leereenheid 1 gaan, want dit is 'n herhaling van die vorige module. Dis net om julle op te skerp, hoekom moet jy in Engels skool gee? Ons gaan baie vinnig deur hierdie eerste deel van die leereenheid gaan. Julle het dit reeds verlede jaar gedoen en julle gaan nie geassesseer word oor hierdie eerste 2 punte. Hoekom is daar 'n groter aanvraag vir Engelsonderrig en hoekom is dit 'n vreesaanjaende gedagte nie? Maar ek wil hê jy moet dit weer gaan lees. Dit staan in die studiegids en ek wil graag hê jy moet dit weer gaan lees. Hoekom in Engels? Daar's 'n groter aanvraag daarvoor. Mense dink dit is meer belangrik om in Engels skool te kry. Hulle dink om universiteite is Engels, dis belangriker om alles in Engels reeds van 'n skoolgaande ouderdom af te doen. En dan, wat moet jy as onderwyser doen as jy by 'n skool kom en hulle sê vir jou, jy moet nou in Engels jou vak aanbied? Gaan kyk asseblief hierna in jou studiegids, gaan deur dit sodat jy net weer kan weet waaroor dit gaan. Vak, taal en terme. Dit is hier uiters noodsaaklik dat jy die lyste op die E-klas gaan raadpleeg. Julle het in die verlede die lyste vir graad 8 en 9 gekry. Hierdie is die lyste uit die CAPS dokumente uit, woorde wat ek uit die CAPS dokumente uitgehaal het vir graad 10, 11 en 12, wat julle gaan byvoeg by julle graad 8 en 9 lyste. Dit is nie in die studiegids nie, dit is op die E-klas, so asseblief gaan kyk op die E-klas dat jy hierdie lyste het. Daar is 'n assessering daaroor, jy gaan dit in die toets kry en jy gaan dit in die eksamen kry. Dit is baie belangrik dat jy hierdie lyste gaan soek en dit leer vir jou. Ons kyk ook in hierdie module na instruksies, want as leerders nie presies verstaan wat hulle moet doen nie, kan leer nie plaasvind nie. Dit is belangrik om te kyk na jou taal, sê vir hulle presies wat hulle moet doen, hoe hulle dit moet doen en wanneer hulle dit moet doen. Herhaal jou instruksies en hierdie een gaan saam met die onderste punt gepaste stemtoon, hoe jy dit oordra. Al sê jy dit 4 keer, al sê jy dit 5 keer, al sê jy dit 10 keer, jy moet vir hulle verduidelik hoe om dit te doen en jy moet geduldig bly en jy moenie met 'n geïrriteerde stemtoon praat nie. Verduidelik vir hulle hoekom hulle die aktiwiteit moet doen, wat gaan hulle baat daaruit en hulle moet verstaan wat hulle moet doen. Al vra hulle weer en weer, verduidelik aan hulle. Julle gaan in die assessering ook 'n aktiwiteit kry waar julle instruksies in Engels gaan moet vertaal. Gaan doen die assessering en in die semestertoets en in die eksamen gaan julle definitief 'n vraag kry van hoe om instruksies in Engels te vertaal. Nog steeds by instruksies, beskryf die besonderhede in detail. As 'n leerder weet wat hy moet doen en verstaan wat hy moet doen, dan sal hy meer sukses in die aktiwiteit behaal. 'n Baie goeie praktyk om te volg is gee vir hulle voorbeelde, wys vir hulle voorbeelde, lees vir hulle opstelle of paragrawe van vorige leerders dat hulle kan sien wat van hulle verwag word. Wys vir hulle, dit is hoe jou plakkaat moet lyk wanneer jy hom inhandig, want dan het hulle 'n beter idee wat om te doen. Jy moet hulle egter daarop wys dat hulle nie jou voorbeeld moet herhaal nie. Hulle moet nog steeds hulle eie werk doen. En dan deel dit op in hanteerbare stukke. Moenie vir 'n graad 8 kind sê jy moet 'n essay van 250 woorde skryf nie. Laat hulle eers die inleidende paragraaf skryf, eers die slotparagraaf. Geef hulle punte wat belangrik is om elke paragraaf oor te skryf. Verander daai punte na woorde, woorde na sinne, sinne na paragrawe en op die ou end het jy essay wat jy wil hê, en dit sal hulle ook meer selfvertroue gee om die aktiwiteit te voltooi. Gaan kyk op die e-klas en in jou studiegids na Chilcote en Staal se model hoe om stap vir stap duidelike instruksies te gee. En maak seker dat jy weet en jou vereenselwig met hierdie model. Ons gaan weer English grammar doen, die basiese Engelse taalreëls, en jy gaan 'n aanlyn toets daaroor skryf Vrydag. Ek sê weer, daar is reëls in Engels. Daar is formele taalreëls wat nagevolg moet word, en as jy jou vak in Engels wil aanbied, moet jy korrekte Engels se taal gebruik. For the English grammar rules, I am going to do this in English. We are going to start with the singular S. That means if a person or a thing or an animal is singular, there's only one of it, the verb gets an S. Be becomes is, and then all the auxiliary verbs with an S, has, and, does, and was, is an S, and singular gets an S. Plural, more than one, gets no S. So the verb stays the first column, play or eat or work. Be becomes are, and all the auxiliary verbs have, do, were, none of them get an S. There's a little story I can tell you if this will help you to remember it. If you are walking in the woods and you are walking by yourself and alone, and there's a little snake lying there and you are afraid, if you walk by yourself and alone, it's quiet. And when you get there, the snake will be there. That means singular gets an S. But if you are walking in the woods and you are walking with all of your friends and you are laughing and you are joking and you are shouting and there's a snake in the bush, what will the snake do? It will sail away. That means more than one, no S. Plural, the snake goes away, no S. Singular, the snake will stay there, it gets an S. When we do questions and negatives, the rule you have to remember is the tense must stay the same. That means if they give you the present tense, eats, and you change it into a question or a negative, there is the S, and that's why eat cannot get an S. Does he eat? It stays the indefinite, the present indefinite tense. The same goes for the past tense. They give you the past tense. The question goes to, did he eat? There is the past tense, and that is why ate becomes eat. And they play tennis. Again, the everyday, the present indefinite tense. They more than one. That's why there is not a S. That becomes a do. Do they play tennis? The time words and tenses are very important, and I know if you are studying maths or accounting that you don't think this is important or that you don't have to pay attention to it. If you are studying languages, especially English, I would really like you to make sure you know the time words and tenses. If you set a paper, please take it to the English teacher so that he or she, the senior teacher, can just check your language and if your time words and your tenses are correct. If there's anything you want me to explain to you here, then you have to ask me and I will do it. But it is very, very important that if you say now at this moment, that you know the time word is, for instance, there's now at the moment, that you have to say at this moment, I am not paying attention. You cannot say I pay attention now. That is incorrect. Or if you want to say yesterday you did something and you completed it by a specific time, by 6 yesterday I had completed my assessment. So it's very important that in your tests, the way you ask your question, you pay attention to the time, words, and tenses. Why do you have to know the rule of indirect or reported speech? Even if you are teaching accounting or maths, you are going to ask a question mother wanted to know, and that means it's not her direct words. Then you have to know how to apply the rule. The rule says the present tense verb goes one step back to the past tense. If the sentence you get, the verb is in the past tense, it goes one step back to had plus the third column. That means if I say, I talk a lot, then the verb is talk in the present tense. One step back becomes talked in the past tense. One step back, it becomes had talked. Had plus the third column. That's what the rule says. There are 3 steps. Step number 1 is identify the verb in the sentence. Step number 2, decide is it in the present tense column, is it in the past tense column, or is it already in the had plus the third column. And the last thing you have to do is move one step back. The example we are going to use here, the man said, I love my new job. You have to start with the man said in the answer. Step number 1 is identify the verb. Love is the verb in the sentence. Step number 2, decide in which column it is. You remember there are 3 columns, the present tense, it goes back to the past tense, it goes back to had plus the third column. So love is in the present tense column. That means love, moving one step back, becomes loved. Your answer then will be the man said that, I changes to he, love changes to loved, as we have seen in the steps, my changes to his. So your answer will be the man said that he loved his new job. Conjunctions. Conjunctions is not the easiest rule to remember in English. But again, why do you have to do it in maths and in accounting? Because you say the one rule or the other rules. So it's one or 2 others, and then you have to decide what is your verb going to look like. The rule is, if you have the conjunction or, either or, neither nor, not only but also in a sentence, one rule applies. You look at the noun and you look at the verb. If any one of or, either or, neither nor, not only but also is there, you look at the noun closest to the verb. There's your sentence, either Mary or her sisters bake cakes. Mary is a noun, sisters is a noun. So if there's either or, we see it's either or. That is why we look at the noun closest to the verb. Now look at the distance. There are the 2 nouns. Mary, it's 7 centimeters. Sisters, 2 centimeters. Which one is the closest to the verb? Sisters. What is the first rule that we did here? We said singular gets S, more than one, no S. So sisters is more than one. Therefore, your answer is either Mary or her sisters bake cakes. The second part of the conjunction rule, including like as well as with and together with. Again, it's about the noun and the verb. If any of these, including like as well as with together with, is in the sentence, you look at the noun far away from the verb. I give you the example sentence. Mary with her sisters. Again, the two nouns, Mary and sisters. 7 centimeters and 2 centimeters. But now you look at the one far away, which is Mary. What does the rule say? Singular, Mary gets an S. So the verb gets an S. Mary with her sisters bakes cakes. Now, the difference between lie, and lay. The first one is when you lie down. In the present tense, every day you lie down. But yesterday you lay down, and then the past participle with has or had or have, you have lain down. That's the one when you lie down. The next one, to tell a lie. You all know Pinocchio. You lie to your parents. Yesterday you lied to your parents, and you have just lied to your parents. And the last one, when you lay the table, or a hen lays an egg, it is L-A-Y. In the past tense, you laid the table, and you have laid the table. Then I just want to add here, if you are lying down, you are lying down like this. If you are telling a lie, you are also lying. And if you are laying the table, you are laying it like that. Parts of speech. You all know what is a noun, what is a verb. What we are specifically going to look at is an adjective and an adverb. An adjective describes a noun, in Afrikaans 'n selfstandige naamwoord, and the adverb describes the verb, die werkwoord. Make very sure about the difference between these two things, that when you set a paper or when you are explaining a lesson in class, that you know when to use an adverb and when to use an adjective. Apostrophe. Apostrophe is one of the things, the rules in English that I want to say irritates me the most, because people who make signboards do not know how to use an apostrophe. You never ever use an apostrophe in English to indicate plural. So there are two scenarios where you use an apostrophe in English. One is possession, it means it belongs to you. And the other one is contraction or omission, when a letter is left out. So if you have one girl and she has a dress, then it is the girl's dress. And the apostrophe is between the L and the S. But if you have two girls and both of them have dresses, then it is the girl, plural, S, and the apostrophe is after the S. When a letter is left out, cannot becomes can't, do not becomes don't, then you use an apostrophe. When do you write numbers? When do you write words in English? 1 to 10, you write in words, as in 6 or 9. And more than 10, you can write the numbers. The next thing you have to remember is redundancy. It refers to information that is expressed more than once. For instance, finished completely, or you smiled happily, or in the past history. Be careful that you don't repeat words that actually say the same thing. When do you use a, and when do you use an? The thing that you have to remember here, it's all about what you hear. The first sound of the word that you hear. If it sounds like a vowel sound, you use an. If it sounds like a consonant sound, you use a. A We look at the word uniform. It is spelled with a U, which is a vowel. But if you pronounce it, it is y. It sounds like a y sound, which is a consonant sound. That is why you say a uniform. And we look at the word hour. It is spelled with an H, which is a consonant. But when you pronounce it, it is an ow sound, which is a vowel sound. And that is why you say an hour. Here's a little column to just give you words that are easily confused. Look at them, make sure you know the meaning and the spelling of the different words. Here are some words that are often misspelled. Make sure about the spelling of the words. Let somebody check your paper before you hand it in to be typed or photocopied for the kids. And you have to differentiate between American spelling and the British system which we are on. For instance, if you look at color, the Americans spell it without a U, but we spell it with a U. The same with neighbor and words like that. Be very careful for the American spelling.